Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about some new features that we've put into GDS-SR. Let's start with the wafer definition. This dialog looks the same. The main difference is how we treat the wafer flat. In the past, when you defined a wafer flat, we added the value of the margin to the wafer flat, and now we no longer do that. That 9,000 microns you see there is measured from here to here. If you were to put a value, say like 3,000, you wouldn't see any flat at all because it's consumed by the margin. So that's one of the new features. The next new feature is the way that we import die. Let's go to the case where we're importing die one at a time. We pick our product die, we pick our top structure. You'll see a new field here called die edge spacing, and I've set it to -10 microns. We've done that to account for the extra 10 microns that appears on some of the poly layers. Therefore, we'll subtract that 10 microns from our computations for stepping and for whether it fits inside the margin or not. You'll also see there's three kinds of die. We call it a regular die and left and right. These should be alignment, not assignment. And you'll also notice that you see a SIMF ID number here along with a color. This information has been taken from a table I set up, which I'll discuss later. So this is our regular die, so we'll just click OK, and you'll see that it gets arrayed. Now let's go to our stepping control. I don't want any street, so I've set that to 0. You can see that it's got properly stepped. So now let's bring in our left and right alignment die, and there's a new feature here called Show Alignment Regions. For 200 and 300 millimeter wafers, we have these defined alignment regions where the alignment die is supposed to fall. The idea is that it should be as close to the top of this region and the inner side as possible, and that placement will be done automatically. So let's do that. We're going to import the next die, which will be, say, our left alignment die. Again, we pick the top structure, and now we'll call it left. And you can see we've just incremented to this. Now, if we wanted to call it FF, I have FF as a color table as orange, and I could call it 03, or in this case I'll just call it 02. So there's been a table that's been set up to associate various colors and various SIMF IDs. So we'll just call it 02 and click OK. You can see there it is, and it's been placed where it should be. We'll do this one more time for the right die now. Pick the top structure, tell it it's the right die, and we'll accept 03 in that color. So here's our finished array, and now we can just export it to GDS2. And now let's have a look. Alright, I'm looking at the VIA1 layer, which is a poly layer, and let's zoom in. If we continue to zoom in, we'll see that it actually is overlapped, which is what is desired. Let's look at a reference layer which shows the die extents. I believe that's layer 60, and you can see that that fits perfectly. The difference between 10 and 60 is that 10 micron that we've dialed into the program. The colors for the SIMF are stored in a file. Let me go to settings, and you'll see in settings now there is a color assignment table, and then here there's the default value for the die edge spacing. We put it here because we were told that this is a standard and you don't have to enter it every time. Now let's look at that color table. This is a user-defined table, and you can give it any name you want and put it anywhere you want because you just point to it here. It really has two columns. The first column is the SIMF ID, and then the second column is an RGB color setting. The first one I've set to kind of a purpley color you see there, and then this second one it would be this kind of yellow, and the third one would be the cyan, and then the fourth one is kind of an orangey color. You can create as many IDs as you like here in as many colors. And finally, when we export our SIMF, you can see that we're putting in the location of the wafer flat now. That summarizes the import die and the wafer layout changes that we've made to the program.